the amount of pathetic losers, so they don't feel like a loser anymore. Absolute loser. Some losers, but losers. You are an absolute loser.
While my lips say salty.
You look at them and you can see that they're losers. A loser. I'm enjoying these losers. You know, just accept that you're a loser. I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser.
I'm not a loser.
Do not support this kind of tourism, but by the way, guys, subscribe to my OF. The link is in the description.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Hey, what's up, Kings? Today I got a beauty for you. Woman's gotten a lot of heat from Passport Bro and Red Pill podcasts, so let's get to it.
No, blew my mind is the amount of pathetic losers, probably a lot of those that watch my channel as well, that cannot get.
No, what channel is that? Could it be an OnlyFans channel? So she's a femdom, whatever the fuck you call it. She makes money off of sexual arousal centered around humiliation, and usually financial humiliation, emotional humiliation, whatever, cucking men. And it's probably a very lucrative field for her because she probably doesn't have to do a lot for men. She doesn't have to get naked. She doesn't have to do much of anything. Maybe she even has like an alpha that she bangs in front of other dudes on OnlyFans, and they get to watch her, you know, her boyfriend or whatever. She's found that niche and she plays to it very well. And if you just look at her, I mean, just let's be real. I mean, her body's okay, you know, for an American woman. She's not American, but if she were an American woman, she'd be, you know, maybe a 7 on the body, and the face, like a 5 or a 6. So 6 for an American woman, but okay, she's actually European. She's probably Norwegian or Swedish or something along those lines. I can't tell from the accent, but you know, she's very fair skinned. So, you know, as you know, a lot of women from that region are beautiful, and she's probably below average from where she's from, because a lot of women from that region are not obese, and you know, they have a lot of attractive features, very fair features, and she doesn't fit in very well. You know, she you know, if she went to United States and set up business there, which she might be doing, I don't know, she'd do reasonably well in the United States, but you know, anywhere else, she's just not doing well. And my guess is that when she went to Thailand, because that's where she's at, not succeeding like around men. You know, men just don't give her the attention that she craves because, or she's been expecting. And, you know, she's salty about it. It also plays to her shtick, you know, this whole channel of hers, took a look at it. It is around like, you know, humiliating you, like, oh, like my content. If I don't get enough likes, I'm going to take away this from you. I'm going to humiliate you collectively, you know, as subscribers. You know, it's really weird, warped shit. Anyway, let's continue.
Can I get a girl in their country? They are pee deprived. They are virgins most likely. They come to these countries, they literally like travel all across the world, because it's mostly Europeans and Americans.
They're not virgins at all.
So they literally have to travel around the world, pay crazy amount of money.
You can pay domestically. You don't have to go across the world
to get some of these girls, so they don't feel like a loser anymore, you know, because
it's like this. They could pay domestically. You could get an escort in the United States, probably pay $200 or $300. Why would you have to spend thousands of dollars to go to Thailand? The only reason they do that is they can go and, you know, have a lot of fun, get wasted, you know, maybe do some drugs and meet much hotter women and spend less money. You know, it's a collective experience. It's holistic. It's not just about getting laid with some Thai chick. I'm sure that's part of it, but it's not, you know, it's a holistic experience. It's not, you know, it's not like, oh, I traveled, I spent $3,000 so I could get laid. It's not necessary. Even in the United States, it's not necessary to do that.
I have noticed that especially the guys that feel really like a loser in their own country, you know, so in Europe or in the USA, they, you know, all the women are kind of like stepping all over them, and they want to prove to themselves, you know, that they can get a girl, that they are this kind of big alpha guy, which they're not, obviously.
And by the way, it's full of shit there too, because there's even a problem of men going to Thailand and complaining that that there are these chads that are, you know, going to Thailand and meeting up with women. So now the bar is set higher. So you already know she's full of shit. These chads are completely rejecting her in Thailand because the women, the bar is set much higher for her. Now she knows how it feels to be a man in the United States. The roles are reversed. She is kind of closer to the equivalent of like an average man in the United States. And she's striking out. She's not able to find men. And if she finds men, they're going to be men that are probably like beneath her in looks, or local Thai men who like are broke as a joke.
I saw it in Phuket and it was crazy. Like, these guys actually, I saw one guy, he looked like, you know, like a guy that watches my channel, like absolute loser, miserable, desperate.
Saw a guy that was a loser. I mean,
and I saw him in
come
the
on
shop.
now. Of course, there's going to be fat losers
yes, guys,
over there. Of course,
experience.
once in a while,
What's
you're going to
been
run
happening
into those
here.
people.
And I see it like a lot here. And yes, I'm not trying to say like yes.
So anyway, she just goes off and off about loser,
probably.
loser. And it's like, if you had to
And they're
count
like,
how many
"No, I'm
times
not
she
a
said it,
loser.
it's
I'm not
probably
a
like
loser.
100.
See, I can get all these Thai girls. I'm not a loser. Definitely.
She's laughing
trust
that
me,
guys
you know?
get hot
Like,
women. I mean, it's so weird. It's so
but
weird,
then they
dude.
get back into their countries and they're looking at the woman there like from down up. Like, oh please goddess, don't destroy me. Oh my goodness,
Oh,
guys.
anyway, she
Oh
gets
my God.
distracted by other stuff.
Oh.
Basically, you know, she got tired of
Guys,
saying men are
there's a lot of
losers and men are losers and men are losers
I
because
don't
she's
wanna
jealous
raise
about
anything.
the women being hotter than her over there. Look, it comes down to this. The supply of women has increased ever since the Passport Bro movement has really kind of exploded. It's always been there. You know, military men have gone overseas, you know, when they were stationed or whatever, and they meet somebody from Vietnam or wherever they met them. That has always been around. Now, with the strength of the dollar and digital nomad, you know, kind of the whole digital nomad movement increasing, and COVID, work from home, that's kind of being rolled back, of course, but it's still there to some capacity, and you know, the growth has been there, and it's been and even those who can't do that, who are not digital nomads or not well-to-do, they're still able to get their 2 to 3 weeks vacation, and they soak it up for every last drop to go wherever is maybe closest to them. For me, it'd be Mexico and Colombia and Peru and places like that. For somebody in the West Coast, it might be, you know, Philippines. Nevertheless, so the supply of women has gone up. And if you know anything about supply and demand, given constant demand, when the supply of something increases, the price for it falls. Now, a lot of women get triggered when you say something like that because, you know, they're emotional and you're logical. You're looking at it logically. You go, oh, well, women, you know, women are not cars. We're not food. We you know, we have souls. We have hearts. Whatever. The point is that the dynamic, the cost, not necessarily the physical dollars that you spend on a woman, but the availability is much higher. Therefore, you have more abundance of choice, more women in the dating pool, many more women in the dating pool. This infuriates women. There are two major analogies to this. One is when the union movement was around, and it was a lot bigger, and there was a lot more like you know, bullying in unions. Now it's a little bit more civilized, so to speak. It's very crony now, much more crony, but it's more civilized. Like the scabs that would you know, cross picket lines, they wouldn't like beat them to a pulp like they used to in the old days. That there's a lot more protection for scabs that like cross picket lines. So now there's a lot more just mockery and other things, because that's like usually the first sign. You just like mockery and, you know, humiliation, like just like this woman is doing. It's the same thing. Like these foreign women represent the scabs in a union picket line. The union picket line represents the Western women and solidarity to hold the line on prices. And if you've seen like with the sprinkle sprinkle movement, I'll probably do another video on that. Basically, sprinkle sprinkle is just a niche set of women who are like holding hard on the union line, the union picket line to force men to pay for their investment of a woman. Force them to take you out to dinner, force them to give you an allowance to pay your bills. And it's always big. It's always big with the sprinkle sprinkle movement to pay their bills. So basically, it's just this hardcore sisterhood solidarity. And they get really pissed when you talk about like overseas women. They always bring up like, oh, green card, using you for your money. That's ironic. They would say that, using you for your money, when that's exactly what they just said they were doing. But nevertheless, they'd say that, and then they just say like, oh, you just a loser back home. All this pedophile trafficking. Oh my God, it just the hits just never end. And and the scabs are also like uneducated. They're poor. They're desperate. A lot of racism, implied racism. And actually, that's more racism than like what woke people call racism, because what woke people call racism is more like bigotry, or even if that exists, which it often doesn't, it's usually just like, crying wolf. But even if they were correct in some cases, like the hardcore, like Confederate flag type people, the worst thing that they're usually doing is more bigotry based. It's not racism, is more about feeling that you are genetically superior over somebody else, another race. And white women, WASPs, they generally have that racial superiority over like Filipina, because the Filipina, they're just subhuman. They're trying to protect. There's a white savior complex too. They're like, we're trying to protect them from trafficking. We're trying to protect them from predators like you, blah, blah, blah. But there's also it's just a lot of inherent racist terminology and vibes you get from them. So that's one analogy, right? The union picket lines. I kind of beat that to death. And the second one, the whole H-1B phenomenon. So those of in the tech sector, that software engineers in the United States, this happened a lot in the 90s, and it's kind of resurfaced again. But there's been waves of it, offshoring talent. And from work from home, I think this probably increased a lot too. So Indian programmers were big in the 1990s. There was some like reshoring afterwards because it didn't work out with language barriers or time zones or other things. There's a lot of failures. And then it kind of brought back. But the point is that the H-1B movement represents additional talent in the pool. And American programmers, American software engineers, they didn't like it. And there was a lot of protectionism, a lot of nationalism associated with, trying to protect jobs, and people liked their six-figure salaries. Back then in the 1990s, that a six-figure salary went a long way. There were some people, myself included, that was doing pretty well, at that time. And we rather liked that our standard of living. That's the other analogy. And nobody likes having their position of power displaced. So in a way, you can't really fault these American women, these Western women. They're just kind of reacting, and they're very, women are emotional by nature, so they're reacting emotionally. So a lot of the triggering that you're going to hear, you really have to ignore mostly. Be careful about just trolling these women. Some will actually go so far as to dox you. Like I said, I have to keep a low profile. Also, her business is failing. A lot of the Only Simps content, or the incomes have dropped precipitously since COVID kind of went away, and then the market's gotten more and more saturated again. An increase in supply. A lot of women are finding out that they can like show feet pics or whatever that they show to get some money. They're trying to do it in the easiest way possible. So the market's saturated. Her FinDom shtick isn't bearing as much fruit as it used to. So the saltiness levels are increasing. Anyway, that's about it. Until the next one, take care, Kings.